guys, it's Monica. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to break down exactly which foods I always buy organic and which ones are probably okay to buy conventional and why. I'm often asked this question, so I'll just be sharing with you guys my process of how I go about figuring all this out. If you're new, I post new videos twice a week on peaceful parenting, healthy living, and life with the little ones, and would love for you to subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss any helpful videos. It's obviously very important to eat lots of fruits and veggies, yet eating conventional produce now poses its own risk due to contamination from pesticides as well as antibiotic-resistant bacteria. I think it's always great to support local, organic, sustainable farming, and I clearly see a value in consuming food that's both healthy for our bodies and the environment. Having said that, sometimes buying organic isn't always an option, as it can admittedly be more expensive. So here's a somewhat quick guide of buying organic. One great place to start is the EWG, or the Environmental Working Group. Each year they put out a Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen list, compiling a list of popular conventional produce and ranking it based on its pesticide contamination levels. The guide is constructed by using the analysis of the data collected largely by USDA personnel as the basis for the analysis, with the point being to give consumers an easy reference to shop for produce with the least amount of pesticide contamination. So the EWG, through the analysis of these test samples, have found that 70% of conventional produce is contaminated with pesticide residue. This is even after the produce is thoroughly washed or peeled. So 25 years ago, the National Academy of Sciences detailed a very extensive long report, which I will link in the description below. The report details the concerns about children's exposure to a pesticide residue through their food sources, yet we are still consuming as a nation large quantities of these questionable chemicals. So on the EWG Dirty Dozen list, just published this year for 2018, this April, you will find the foods most heavily contaminated with pesticides that you will want to avoid conventional and buy organic, or just avoid eating. Like I mentioned from that study, children are particularly susceptible to pesticide residue, as some of them are linked with pediatric cancers, decreased cognitive function, and behavioral problems. Studies have also shown links between infertility, cancer, reproductive and developmental problems, hormone disruption, and neurological problems. These potentially harmful substances are allowed in our food system due to the fact that acceptable levels were determined years and years and years ago, and doesn't account for how these chemicals can be harmful in small quantities as well as in various combinations. Now I'll go over the Dirty Dozen list with you guys, and first on the list is strawberries. When they analyzed the test, they found one strawberry sample contained 22 pesticide residues, and a third of all of the samples contained at least 10 or more pesticide residues. So here's a fun fact about strawberries. Strawberry crops are actually sprayed with about 300 pounds per acre of some sort of a pesticide. And when you compare this to the 5 pounds per acre for corn, which is considered a pesticide-intensive crop, you see that this is a huge number. 80% of these pesticides are in the form of extremely toxic gases injected directly into the soil where the strawberries will be grown. Number 2 is spinach. So they found that 97% of conventional spinach contained pesticide residues with high concentrations of permethrin, a neurotoxic insecticide. Number 3, you'll find nectarines, for which 94% of the samples had 2 or more pesticides. Number 4, apples. 90% had pesticide residues, 80% contained this pesticide, difficult to pronounce, also banned in Europe. Grapes. Of the grape samples, 95 tested positive for pesticide residue, averaging about 5 per sample. Obviously, when we're talking about grapes, this includes raisins, which is a super popular snack among young children. Number 6, we have peaches, 7 cherries, 8 pears, 9 tomatoes, 10 celery, 11 potatoes, 12 sweet bell peppers, and they have a bonus one for hot peppers because they felt they should include this because of the levels of contamination found in the peppers. List, you can see that many of the foods with a thin skin that cannot be peeled are high on the list. And this is because when the pesticides are sprayed onto The fruit, it actually gets absorbed into the fruit and then it is impossible to wash it away. So no matter how hard you wash it, once it's incorporated into the fruit, you're going to be consuming it too. So that is the Dirty Dozen list from the EWG. This list is limited to produce, and there are a few other things that I always keep in mind when deciding whether to buy conventional or organic. The next one that I will definitely point out is wheat. Even setting aside the discussion around gluten and how wheat has changed over the years, conventional wheat is typically very contaminated with a substance called glyphosate, which is the main component of a very popular weed killer, Roundup. While there is always an ongoing debate about these things, there have been recent studies showing the link between glyphosate and cancer. Last year, you might have read some articles about glyphosate being this potentially cancer-causing substance that was found in all of these popular foods, including Cheerios, another one that is a favorite for young children. So next up is processed foods. So this is something that I always buy organic, almost exclusively, unless there's like one or two natural ingredients on the list that I know what they are and I know that they're not heavily contaminated with pesticides, then I might consider buying a non-organic version of that thing, whatever that is. So while organic is admittedly imperfect, it does automatically eliminate a lot of the things that I try to avoid, including dangerous or controversial ingredients that would be allowed to be added to the conventional food. For the most part, when buying organic processed foods, you can rest easy knowing that what you're eating is actually food. On the contrary, there's a lot of non-food ingredients allowed in foods that aren't labeled USDA organic. If you're not into reading labels, you might be surprised to find this long list of ingredients, half of which you probably can't pronounce, in something as simple as potato salad or pancake syrup. You'll see ingredients like high fructose corn syrup, which has been linked to increased weight gain and other health problems, as well as artificial sweeteners, which can actually promote weight gain and lead to diabetes, carcinogenic preservatives, nitrates, which is including a lot of processed meats, have been linked to colon cancers, metabolic syndrome, and diabetes. Artificial dyes, which have been linked to various cancers and behavioral problems in children. MSG, artificial flavors, which can really be a chemical combination of 50 or more unknown chemical substances, and GMOs, which is just a whole other video. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want me to make that one. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and show you guys the Clean 15 list, which is going to provide you with your least contaminated foods. And I will just say it's worth looking at that complete list and assessing for yourself where you want to draw the line. Okay, first on the list is avocados, and fewer than 1% of the samples tested positive, and only 1 in the 360 size sample found 1 pesticide residue. Number 2 on the list is sweet corn. And this is actually one that I still do buy organic because there's a certain percentage that is still Roundup Ready GMO corn, and I try to avoid GMOs, and so since there's no way of knowing whether or not it is GMO or not, I stick to organic corn. Number 3 is pineapples, and 90% of the samples had no pesticide residues. Number 4 is cabbage. Number 5 is onions. Number 6 is frozen sweet peas. Number 7, papaya. Number 8, asparagus. Number 9, mango. Number 10, eggplants. Number 11, melons. Number 12, kiwi. Number 13, cantaloupe. Number 14, cauliflower. And this is where I start to say you need to determine for yourself where you're going to draw the line, because about half of the samples did contain some pesticide residue. And number 15, broccoli. With broccoli, again, they found that 70% of the samples had no pesticide residues, but that would mean that 30% of the samples did, and 1 in 10 of the samples contain 3 or more pesticide residues. So when it gets towards the end of the list, I will still stick with the organic version. So while we might not always be able to go organic, and knowing these facts and knowing these things can help us make better decisions about what we want to consume. So while I try to find restaurants that use great local organic ingredients, this isn't always possible, especially when traveling or when dining out with others. In these instances, when I'm dining out, I certainly try to avoid things that I know are genetically modified or on the Dirty Dozen list. There are limited times where there are things that I will have to eat something that isn't necessarily on my top list of what I want to be putting into my body. It's also important to keep in mind that some people are more sensitive to toxins than others, and their bodies aren't as capable or able to rid the body of toxins. So it's really important to be aware of that, especially with your children, and it can have really damaging and negative effects, including food allergies, skin allergies, neurological issues, and so on. Okay guys, I really hope this video was helpful to you. This is where my research has led me thus far, and I hope that this video can provide you with a little bit more clarity when it comes to this subject. There is so much information about what's in our food and what can be harmful and what is okay, and there's a lot of debate on both sides, so this can be a really tough subject to dissect. There are literally thousands of chemicals and hundreds of additives and so many aspects to consider, and so I would definitely recommend researching and educating yourself about the subject even more. If you guys like this video, I'd love for you to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.